G'day listeners, and welcome to our preview of the 2015 Underwood Stakes from Caulfield. Looks a good event. We've got a dozen runners, and obviously with the cleaner engaged, we can expect that it'll be run at a pretty good clip. So we'll get into it, and what we'll do is we'll just insert the price on each runner. I've sorted it from basically top rater to bottom rater, so we'll plug it in and do a bit of a comment on the horse and whatnot, and where I think I can get my market to. So we'll just start with Faulkner. I've got him at $3.60, and fixed odds TAB is pretty much $3.60. So we look, I think that I can have this horse shorter. I mean, I haven't worked in anything for maps or anything like that. These are just based off of the figures, so they can go in or out. But look, I could certainly make a case to get Faulkner a little bit shorter. I thought his run first up was excellent. Obviously, it's pretty well publicised. It was a boat race, and you know, which sort of tells us a couple of things. The first thing was, he was fantastic to be able to win like that first up off a slow tempo with such a big turn of foot. And basically everything's had their chance to beat him, and he's a very, very hard horse to get past the cleaner. Faulkner. And the other thing is just with the real lack of tempo in the race, it sort of, what it generally means is finishes can be a bit more bunched, and lesser horses can certainly finish closer to the better horses. And I certainly think that's what happened last start. There's some horses that got close to Faulkner, but I'm pretty confident that with a genuinely run race with the cleaner in, those types of horses won't be getting that close to him as a group. That there could be one or two that could jump out of the ground, but I think that Faulkner will enjoy the pace set here by the cleaner. Certainly has to do it second up, but we know how good he is. He's tough. He's a grand old campaigner now. He's a real high class horse, Caulfield Cup winner, huge run in the Cox Plate, and if we sort of benchmark, his talent on, Caulfield Cups and Cox Plates and start going through the field, it drops off quite quickly. So, Faulkner, 360 at the moment. I could have him mid to high twos without an issue there. And, certainly if he sort of came into 275, then, he's a good over. So that's probably where he's going to end up for me, somewhere around the high twos. Onto the cleaner, and we got him, we'll call it 550, and currently 650 is available at multiple agencies. So look, he's around the mark, this horse. I think he's the danger to Faulkner, and the danger there is if he can get them all, often chasing, and Faulkner's, not quite there, but I think he will be. But we'll stick with the cleaner here, and he was fantastic at Moonee Valley. Certainly, it looks to me like Callow learned a fair bit about the horse between runs, and it's pretty evident what will happen here. That the horse is going to work forward, and anything that really tries to tag him hard, he's probably going to struggle. And anything that gets too far back is probably going to struggle too. So, you really don't want to be too close to him or too far back when you race the cleaner. You just need to be right in that spot. But look, he was superb, and he did have a good margin on some of those horses at Moonee Valley, and there's a couple of little things that helped him there. But on face value, he was fantastic, and there's some others that have to catch him. So I think he's the main danger, and certainly a horse that I'll look to probably not have a full bet on, because I am pretty keen Faulkner's the winner. But we'll have a little bit of a saver on him. Onto contributor, and he's call it 440. And look, he's just a bit under the odds at the moment. He look, there was a couple of things against him at Moonee Valley, and one was where he was in the run. The other one, he didn't really look to really like, getting around that bend. And, there's a couple of bits about his race that were pretty good. Obviously, the horse probably wasn't that as fit as the market would have thought early in the week when he was heavily backed. But I'd expect that he'll be a sharp improver here. The query still with him is he able to produce that really big finish off of quite a solid pace? And it's something that he's struggled to do since he's been in Australia, and we've been able to see him on the clock here. And that's not to say he can't do it, because he's not an overly exposed horse for a series. It's not like he's had a lot of runs, but we have seen enough just to sort of put a bit of an asterisk next to his name that for him to perform at his absolute best, it does appear that he needs a softer style run race, and I'm not sure that he's going to get that with the cleaner in. But certainly hard to throw rocks at Contributor. He's such a high class runner. But I just prefer to see him tomorrow, especially against the cleaner. On the Mourinho, and he's currently, call it $18. So look, he's over the odds, this horse. Where he ends up for me, I'm not exactly sure, but I think $10 for me is short enough. I've sort of marked him up pretty well. He's got some good speed figures, and he was pretty good first up, wasn't he? And obviously he had an issue at Moonee Valley, so I guess a lot depends on how you want to treat him coming out of that Moonee Valley run. If you're sort of happy to sort of be a little bit forgiving of him, then $18 is probably a pretty good price. If you weren't happy to be forgiving and just sort of wanted to put a line through him, then $18 wouldn't be enough. I've sort of learnt that with these good horses, I can't really put a line through them the first time round, especially when they've got such a good record. So he has had a few issues in the past, this horse, but he's a very game sort of horse, and he's going to get a good run. He's drawn well, so look, I think he'll struggle to win. I mean, his over's on my price, but it's hard to sort of see him beating Faulkner. But as I discussed earlier, if we swing a couple of changes and get Faulkner in, then the rest sort of start to nudge out. So he'll probably be around the mark for us tomorrow. On the Dibiani, and currently this horse is call it $13 across the board. Look, I think this horse has got a nice win in it. I don't think that win will be tomorrow, but certainly it's tracking in the right direction, and it worked to the line well. It's only going to be third up, and a horse that I think can be followed out over a little bit more ground, probably maybe not something a little bit easier, but it's been performing quite well, especially its last run. So it's too hard to really poke a lot of holes in the horse. It's just whether your figures on your end, would suggest it's got the ability to sort of turn it around on the cleaner. And at 1800, I'm not sure it does. On to High World, and he's currently $21, and he ran pretty well first up. I thought he didn't really go around the horse, did he? So the jury's out for me on High World. I think he's a nice horse. We know that he loves wet tracks and whatnot, and I just sort of wonder, all the figures sort of suggest to me that that this horse is just a level below these, or a couple of levels below these top liners, and he's not really a horse I want to go into this race, backing or being on, in a hard sort of way. So he's sort of one that, he's around the mark. If the track was wet, I'd sort of elevate him for sure. But, it's pretty hard again to sort of come into him. So once we make the adjustments up the top of the market, he's sort of one that, again, he's going to end up sort of a borderline overlay and maybe not even one. So happy to work around him. On to Weary, and currently we've got $14 across the board for him. And look, he's a nice horse. He always tends to run pretty well, but he just doesn't seem to have that big knockout blow at this level. We've seen him run well. He's quite an adaptable type of horse that's been able to do it over shorter on wet, and he's sort of running pretty well now over a little bit further. So look, you can never really rub out the Waller runners, because we know how good Waller is at getting them up. But I'm pretty confident that I think this is one that we can work around. Onto Sartorius, and $51. Look, he is a good horse, this guy, and if we sort of measure him on his class figures and look at his second up run last prep, it sort of wasn't against a field that you'd think would be highly competitive in a race like this against the Cleaner and Faulkner. But if we sort of measure his sectional times and his overall figure on the clock, and the horse has got a history of sort of being able to run those types of races, I think he's the big value in the race. So I'm not sure he can win, but definitely quick pace for this horse isn't going to be an issue, and I certainly think that $51 is quite a big price for this horse, and certainly he's a horse at odds that can be included in your exotics and maybe a little place bet if you're looking to play that way. Onto Volkstock and Barrel, and look, currently we've got him $14. The market's got him 14. Sorry, we got him 35. Look, he's got the markings. His horse, I thought he didn't have a lot of luck last start. He just hasn't been able to produce an overall figure for me on the clocks. Sure, he's been able to do it over certain sections of a race and show a really good turn of foot. But sort of until they really rubber stamp themselves, Faulkner and the Cleaner on my speed figures, they're two runners that have been able to overall run to 125, which is Group 1 standard for sure. We know that that's a rubber stamp ticket to a Group 1. And Volkstock and Barrel, although being a good winner, he just hasn't been able to do that. Now, because he hasn't been able to do that, we have to be careful when assessing that, because just because he hasn't sort of done it yet for us, it doesn't mean he can't do it. Obviously, like anything in life, to do something, you need an opportunity. So, he's a horse I've got a little asterisk next to that. I think he probably can, but sort of, if you start, fiddling with the figures and boosting everything because you think something might happen, you can get in trouble. So just the way that the figures have fallen with this horse tomorrow, we just sort of have to be against him, but I think that he can run pretty well. On the Magical, and this horse is currently $34 across the board. Look, he obviously went pretty well last campaign towards the tail end. Where they go to, I'm not sure, but this is a long way up from what he sort of contested last campaign, and certainly we're gonna learn a bit about this horse, if he's really improved or if he's sort of just where he was at. So happy to work around him. Mongolian Khan, look, I'm not sure what to do with him. He sort of fits into a bit of the same bracket as Volkstock and Barrel. So, I've got him at 100 on the raw figures, and he's 12. I don't think 12's right, but I'm not sure 100's right. So I just have to. It's probably going to be somewhere in between. But we'll just have a look and see what happens. But again, he's just one we really need to see him rubber stamp himself And then on to Dandino. Look, I had a real close look at this horse. I wasn't sure what to sort of do with him, but I was pretty clear with myself when I assessed the figures that out of that last race that he ran in, that really soft tempo helped a lot of horses and finish a lot closer than they would have under the general pressure of a normal race pace. So look, I could be wrong here, but I sort of think that the horse had a long time off and whatnot, and he was okay first up, and he just sort of went at it was a barrier trial last start, and he's just been able to be under no pressure throughout and produce the last 400. So until I can see this horse come out and produce a big figure overall, which could be tomorrow, he could make a fool out of me, but I'm sort of happy to work around this horse. I know he's been a good horse in the past, but after such a long layoff and an injury, I just sort of wonder if that final sprint that he was able to produce was purely because of there was no tempo in the race. So that's it with Dandino. So look, that's the race for us. As you can see, the runners that are blue in the return, they're the current runners that are probably around the mark price-wise. So we've got Faulkner, the Cleaner, Mourinho, High World, and Sartorius. So on the raw ratings, those horses at this stage look to be overlays for us. As I pointed out earlier, Faulkner's going to end up a bit shorter for us once we've finished the whole thing, and he's also a runner that we track quite closely in another group of horses with our tips, and he ticks all the boxes for that those selections tomorrow, and they run at a pretty decent strike rate and profit on turnover. So I'll be really keen that he runs quite well tomorrow, and he's definitely one to beat. So I think whatever you do, you have to include Faulkner, you have to include the Cleaner, and if you're looking at including some horses at odds, Mourinho and Sartorius are probably the two bigger value runners. High World's probably going to be around the mark, and as we touched on with Contributor, it's certainly hard to throw rocks at such a high-class horse, but again, we sort of need to see him step up to the plate in a high-pressure race. So thanks for listening. All the best, and if you've got any comments or questions, just whack them down the bottom of this post or ask us in Twitter. So thanks for listening, and good luck with your betting.